Hey, you're listening to the Burnt Out Entrepreneur podcast, where you'll learn why you're feeling so burnt out, some insights and hacks to get you along this entrepreneurial journey. I'm Camie Wilke, former oil and gas manager turned health coach, life coach, and business mentor for female entrepreneurs just like you, and help them heal and recover from burnout. Welcome back to the Burnt Out Entrepreneur podcast. Today is our second episode with Camie Wilke. On the last episode, we talked about the traditional launching model and why it's not working today, and how you can algorithm proof your business. So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that one. You don't have to listen to these in series. You can listen to both of them separately. That's why we created these two separate episodes, because they were so juicy, we had to create two. So in the second episode, we're talking about how to avoid undercharging and overworking. When we're undercharging, that means we have to sell more, and how to avoid that and avoiding the burnout in your business by selling high ticket. So this is going to be another juicy conversation. So just buckle in your seatbelts. I'm about to get started.
Love it. Oh, thanks so much for having me back, Kylie.
You're welcome. And I love what, we talked about the launching model, and in the previous episode, we talked about, and especially the algorithm proofing of your business. It happens when you lose all of those followers. And that influencer that you mentioned, the travel influencer, she had an account of over 100,000 followers. Her account got hacked and she lost all of her income. And right, for being real, the influencers, how they make a lot of their money is selling a lot of low ticket affiliate commission through higher volume of sales. And so if you're looking at that model, you have to sell a lot. So when you're undercharging, you have to sell more. That's marketing for you. That's sales and marketing. You sell X amount of widgets at Y price, gives you your revenue. That's it. And when you sell high ticket, you don't have to sell as many widgets, as many programs, as you don't have to sign as many clients. When your widget or your X is a lot higher, your Y can therefore be less.
Right. So. Absolutely. So when I heard that story from that sweet woman in the hot tub that told me that she had lost her account of 100,000 followers, I literally, within days, went through some deep security measures on my Instagram. I don't have more than 600 followers, which thank goodness, which we'll talk about in a moment, doing better than ever financially because of this high ticket sales, which we'll talk about. But yeah, thank goodness she said she had a Facebook community, so she was still able to be plugged in there. But from an Instagram perspective, yeah, that thing was poof. So I just felt like that's like Lord saying, you need to get your act together on securing and locking down your Instagram. And so I did. Your point, when we undercharge, we have to overwork. And I think that this is an issue in coaching in general, especially in the Christian coaching space. I've never seen more people struggle with money, concepts, mindset, poverty mentality than Christians do. But I believe that comes from a poverty gospel that was preached to them over the years. Rich people are bad. Money is the root of all evil, which is taking scripture out of context. And people becoming so fearful of becoming engrossed in money or lustful after money, which is good to have discernment about that and have boundaries with money. Absolutely. We don't want to become lustful around money, but becoming so fearful of swinging too far to the pendulum that they run completely in the other direction. And my question is, how are you going to be a business owner if you're not making profit? How? Proverbs 31:18 says she makes sure her dealings are profitable. That's talking about the Proverbs 31 woman. She was an entrepreneur and she made darn sure that what she was doing was worth her time and that she was making not just some money, she was making a net profit. And so I just want to quickly just confront that. We talk about prosperity gospel and how damaging that is, the belief that which is super similar to a new age beliefs of calling things into the universe. Money just flows to me, woo-woo things like that. So prosperity gospel is one extreme. Also, another side of that extreme is poverty gospel, which almost nobody's talking about. And I would venture to say is just as damaging because things like becoming debt-free, giving generously, having enough for yourself and others, leaving an inheritance, all of those are biblical principles discussed in the Bible, specifically even in the book of Proverbs, really where a lot of it is discussed. We have to come and attack this nonsense of the poverty gospel that has so many Christians just chained, terrified to charge anything other than free or just above free for their coaching services.
And what popped into my mind when you're talking about that was the book of Job, where Job was chosen to be sifted, so to speak. And he's like, have you not considered my man Job? Job was a rich dude. He was a rich dude.
Mm-hmm.
He went through his trials and tribulations. Satan was allowed to test him, sift him, and pretty much everything was taken away. Except, his faith was hanging by a thread. And then when he passed the test, God doubled his portion. Even his children were taken away from him. They all died in a freak accident all at once because they were all at the same party. And God gave him twice the amount of children even.
Yeah.
And this was someone who God was extremely proud of. Like, have you considered my man Job? He's the bomb. You know what I'm saying? And Satan was like, well, he's only the bomb because of how you've blessed him. Take it all away, and he's not going to be singing your praises anymore. That's Kylie international version.
Yeah. And I think that we have to start there because I'm a believer, you're a believer, probably a lot of your listeners, a lot of my listeners are believers. And it's really hard to talk about high ticket if somebody's stuck in a poverty mentality, which again, I would venture to say is just as damaging as buying into, pun intended, the prosperity gospel. So we have to address that first. Now that we've kind of thrown in that caveat, high ticket, here's my definition of what I believe high ticket is. Everybody has their own definition. I believe that high ticket is selling a coaching program for anything $2,000 or more. My opinion is that anything $2,000 and less is not a high ticket program. Doesn't mean that it's not valuable. It doesn't mean that there's not a space for it in your product suite, but I believe that it's not considered a high ticket offer.
I think it's the mindset behind it. Right. When people are looking at purchases, anything above 2,000 is considered like, anything below 2,000 is, I would say, manageable by most households.
Absolutely, especially if there's payment plans available. And so one thing that I do with people, and I love this exercise because if somebody's stuck in a poverty mentality, it's very feelings focused. That feels bad. That feels icky to have money. And so this is an exercise I do with people that is very, very objective. It's facts focused. It's numbers focused. They can't answer these questions based upon their feelings. They have to just answer based upon facts. And my question to them is, if you want to make $100,000 in a year and you are currently charging $1,000 for your one-on-one coaching program and your program is 6 months long, okay? Which is not too far off of where I would say a lot of people are maybe starting. I won't go into the story just from a time perspective, but I've never met anybody that did undercharging worse than I did. So I'm coming from a very humble place. I once charged $24 for a 6-week coaching program, LOL at my life. That was one of the first times that I ever experienced burnout from undercharging and overworking. I signed 38 women at $24. I made a pretty decent amount of money up front, about $900. I was so full. My workload was so full with women. I had to serve and I had no idea how to run a group coaching program. So I basically treated everybody like one-on-one coaching client. 38 basically email support one-on-one coaching clients. And my time was so taken up, I had no more opportunities to make any more money for at least 6 weeks. If somebody is charging $1,000 for a 6-month group coaching program and their goal is to make $100,000 in a year, then just basic math is you would have to sign 1,000 clients. Great. So if your program is 6 months long, that means you have to sign 50 one-on-one clients in the first 6 months and 50 in the second half of the year. If we were just to make it out perfectly for easy math. If each one of those coaching clients gets a 1 hour weekly call with you, now you have 50 Zoom calls a week. 50. The average work week is 40 hours. Mind you, in addition to coaching your clients, they also get Voxer support with you probably. If it's a one-on-one coaching program, you also need to create content. That's going to take time for you. You also need to be actively searching for new clients because remember, after that 6-month mark, all of those clients are going away and you have to sign 50 more. So you need to be actively generating new leads, getting on sales calls. You are recreating not just a 9-to-5 job for yourself, you are creating a hot mess express for yourself. I venture to say it is completely unwise. It throws common sense out the window, which are both things that the Bible holds in high regards, especially in the book of Proverbs, wisdom, and it says, do not lose common sense. And when I present this to women, all of a sudden it takes the feelings out and now it's just, oh, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 3. Yes. Okay, so here's what we can do instead. If your goal is $100,000, let's take that same one-on-one coaching program. First of all, does it even need to be 6 months? Or did you just think that it needed to be 6 months? If it needs to be 6 months, great. If you can actually get the same value in 3 months, here's a little hint. People value results in quicker time. I think that sometimes coaches put longer coaching packages on just because they think that people are going to perceive it as more valuable. Not always. That's why liposuction is so expensive because people can go and lose body fat in literally one day and they'll pay $25,000 for it and they won't go pay $25 a month for a gym membership. People value quick results. We're literally on Instagram. So if you can provide the same results in half the time, people will pay more for that. So first, acknowledge, does your program even need to be 6 months? If it is, great. If it can be 3 months, let's do it in that. If you were to bump your price from $1,000 to $5,000, let's just keep it 6 months just for easy math. You only need to have 20 clients in a year, okay? If you were to do 10 in the first 6 months, 10 in the last 6 months, now you've taken your weekly Zoom time coaching clients from 50 hours to 10. In my opinion, that's still kind of a lot. But to each their own. Some people love it. 5 hours on Tuesday, 5 hours on Thursday. Now you have 3 other working days of the week to focus on content, to maybe take a day off and just chill and relax, and maybe do some administrative stuff, maybe work on generating some new leads, get some sales going for the months coming up ahead when your clients' packages are ending. You have now greatly reduced your workload, which guess what is going to help you reduce burnout. High ticket is not just, in my opinion, good business tactics. I believe that in some degree is common sense. Also because most people, when they're starting off in coaching, they're not coming in having a large audience. If you already had an influence, maybe you were an influencer before, you already had 50,000 followers, then sure, you may not need high ticket coaching in order to hit your income goals. There's other reasons to charge high ticket beyond just income. I have 6 total reasons why I believe high ticket coaching should be what it is. But that being said, from just strictly an income perspective, I believe that high ticket coaching, especially for a new coach, is just simply common sense.
Yeah, and that's also the model that I was taught. It's you have the one-on-ones, but they're higher ticket. And then when you start diversifying into group coaching program, because you're doing one-to-many, that's when you can reduce your prices. And then the deliverables and the touch points and the access is less. So therefore, your charging is less because they get less access. And that's what people are used to paying. If you're going to a concert, and if I got a one-on-one concert with Mariah Carey, I don't even think there's enough visas in the world to pay for it. I don't know how much she charges. And if I'm buying a ticket to a concert in an amphitheater, of course, I know I'm going to be paying less because I'm not getting that one-on-one time with her.
And the people in the nosebleeds, they're not paying as much as the people in the front row.
Exactly.
And as it should be.
Yes.
You know, if they're getting more one-on-one interaction with the performer, they should pay more.
Yes. Same concept. Love it. Yeah. Yes, of course, the math works. And when you're looking at it from a factual standpoint and a number standpoint, definitely high ticket is the way to go to avoid burnout. What about those female coaches out here who are listening? Well, I don't feel like I can charge that much.
Yeah. So my question with them is, Okay, let's dig into it. Let's acknowledge our feelings. I'm a very big believer that like feelings were given to us from the Lord. Like, he gave us emotions. We are very much warned about being dictated by our feelings. So if you are, whatever you're feeling, if you're following that feeling, a huge red flag, first of all, especially if you're a believer. But let's acknowledge your feeling. Let's acknowledge it. Why do you feel that you can't charge that much? Is that because your program is actually not worth that? Because that could be true. There's something that I'm addressing right now in the coaching space, especially because in our country, recession, which is a scary word I don't love to use. I think that it's designed to invoke fear, but let's call it what it is. Let's acknowledge what's happening. Inflation and recession. Now, people are doubling down on their budget and they are cutting out non-essentials to make room for essentials that the price is going up for. I paid over $7 for a half gallon of orange juice last week. Insane. Wild. Completely just preposterous. That being said, though, food is an essential. And so people are cutting out non-essentials. If you want to make sure that your coaching is not the first thing to go from somebody's budget, you need to make sure that your coaching is essential. What does that mean? We have to solve bigger and more painful problems. And that's really tough for people to hear because we get so attached to our niche. But let's not be so attached to our niche that we throw common sense out the window. For example, an example of a really confusing niche, something that's very generic, something that is certainly not essential. And if I'm measuring groceries versus this niche, this is not going to make the budget. An example would be if somebody said, yeah, my coaching, I help moms be better moms. Okay, I have no idea what that means. Love you. You're great. I have no idea what that means. I think it's a good place to start, but it's very confusing. I'm wildly confused. I'm certainly not going to pay $4,000 for that, especially when my grocery bill has doubled and my child has a doctor's appointment next week and oops, that's not covered by insurance and I'm going to have to pay $400 out of pocket. If it's not an essential part, guess what? It's getting cut from the budget. Here is something that I would pay high dollar for. I help moms who have kids with peanut allergies avoid anaphylaxis and exposure. If I'm a mom with a kid with peanut allergy, you darn tootin', I'm paying $4,000 for that. Another example, I help couples with broken marriages rebuild their relationship, avoid lawyer fees, and avoid trauma and divorce within their family. I'm paying $4,000 for that. I'll give one more example. Let's see. I'll use my niche. I help moms who want to make more money to provide for their family learn how to run a coaching business from home. So not only they can afford the rising cost of inflation, but they can stay home with their kids. Each one of those things can be seen as an essential part of somebody's budget. There's three really main categories of what statistically people care about most. That is health, wealth, and relationships. That doesn't mean that you have to be a health coach or teach people how to make money or relationship coach. There's lots of variation and freedom within this. What this means is that your coaching, your clientele, especially now in the economy with a recession on the brinks, if not already here, is people need to see how your coaching is going to help them grow in either the area of health, wealth, or relationships. If it's not helping me make money, then it darn tootin' better be helping me get healthier so I can live longer or enrich my relationships, and vice versa. So if you feel like a coaching program isn't worth a high ticket coaching price, to go back to the original question, then what I'm going to ask you is, why is that? Is it because it's not actually worth that? Because you're solving a very generic and small problem. If your ideal client is not laying in bed at least one time a month crying about this problem, it's not a big enough problem, especially during an economy where people now have reduced budgets. They don't have as much room for luxury things like coaching. Coaching is a luxury experience. People don't need coaching in order to survive. So the problem you're solving needs to be as close to essential as possible. So that's my first question that I'm going to ask her. I'll pause and take a breath, and then I'll follow up with the second question and ask somebody if they feel like they can't charge high ticket.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question.
Yeah,
because I hear this a lot too. Well, what if I can help moms whose kids don't have peanut allergies? I can help all moms.
Okay, first of all, I want to say that was me. So I'm coming from a really humble place. I started off as a fitness coach and I wanted to help anybody and everybody that wanted to lose weight. And it didn't matter who you were or how you wanted to do it. I would help you lose weight. And what it did is it watered down and diluted my messaging. I was confused as who I help and how I help them. Other people were confused, and confused people do not invest high dollars into something, especially if the transformation isn't clear or how you're going to get them isn't clear. And
that's it right there.
Thank you. And to go back to your original question is, what I asked her, I said that first question is, do you feel like you can't charge high ticket because you actually don't have enough value in the program? Question number one. If that's the case, then we need to change our niche to solve a bigger, more painful problem. If you are solving a really big and painful problem and your coaching is essential, then my next question is, if your program is worth that, but you don't feel like you can charge that, why? What happened in your life experience that made you feel you can't charge that much? Did you grow up in a family where you heard mom and dad constantly talking about how they weren't going to be able to make ends meet this month? Did you show up to the restaurant and you purposely either pretended like you weren't hungry, or you ordered the cheapest thing on the menu just because you overheard mom and dad talking last night that they were really struggling and you didn't want to be a burden to them? Those childhood experiences are going to carry into the way that you feel about money, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. And if you are a parent that is saying phrases in your house to the degree of, we can't afford that, only rich people can buy that, I plead with you to stop. Even if it is true that you don't currently have the dollar bills in your bank account to afford that thing, I urge you to find another way to say that, because what you're doing is you're planting seeds of poverty gospel and mentality in your children they will carry into adulthood. And that is generational. When I talk about generational curses, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Shifting the way we say it, and that's not a priority for us right now. We're going to shift our priority to something else so much better. So much better. The saying, I can't afford it, is damaging generationally.
Yeah. And I'll just be honest, like, how many of us that have invested it in coaching and in high ticket programs, we're buying programs that help us change our money mindset. So why not do our kids a favor and just don't develop the poverty mindset in them from the beginning, so that they want to take, even if they're not entrepreneurs and they're working for a company, they know how to honor themselves. They know how to ask for more money, higher salaries, because they value themselves. It's the entrepreneur counterpart to that is, I use corporate a lot because most of us have had corporate jobs, so we understand how the pay structure works there. If you want to move up the ladder, you have to prove your worth somehow and make somebody understand that you're valuable and essential to the company, therefore you can demand more money. It's the same way with coaching. How can we make ourselves essential and valuable to the client who is hiring us and promoting us? We say we're going from the $1,000 6-month program and we're trying to go into a $5,000 say 3-month program, whatever, or even we just do apples to apples, just raising the price, keeping the program the same and just raising the price. How do we do that? It starts with understanding our inherent value and how we are essential to the client's success, to the client's business success. For those of us who are business coaches, even if we're health coaches helping entrepreneurs, how is her health invaluable to the growth of her business?
Health is wealth. If she doesn't address that health issue, promise you she's going to pay for it later, probably 10 times over.
I did that. That's why I am in the burnout coaching niche, and I niched down to business burnout coaching. Yes, I had corporate burnout, but I saw the parallels between corporate burnout and entrepreneurial burnout. We all come from a corporate background, the most of us. Some of us are not lucky to just never have had a corporate experience, but for the most of us who are transitioning from corporate and into entrepreneurship, well, that's mostly my niche, we understand the corporate structure, and sometimes we carry those bad habits of working and our worth and our value from corporate into our businesses, And there's a lot of mindset shifts that have to happen, because it's like, you mean I could just ask for more money by essentially raising our prices? It's like, yes, you can. You can, because you are the owner of your business. There's that piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And what comes up often in the high ticket coaching space is the challenges around money, especially if that person's a believer. It's much more common. Not saying that all believers have issues with money, absolutely not. But there's a reason why I believe it's the second most talked about topic in the Bible. If not, it's up there for a reason. God knew we were going to struggle with it from both perspectives, from prosperity, which, by the way, it is biblical to be prosperous. Let's just clear that out in the room. There is an extreme that is taught that people are really meaning when they talk about the prosperity gospel, but it's gotten to the point where now Christians are even afraid to use the word prosperous or prosperity because they're afraid of being put in the category of prosperity gospel. So let's just tell what it is. The Lord uses the word prosperity in scripture. That's biblical. The extreme part of it, that money just flows to me and all I have to do is just call it in, and God desires for me to have the $7,000 months and whatever it is. God desires for you to be debt free. He desires you to use all of your gifts and invest in your gifts, whether that's financially or your time, for the glory of his kingdom. He desires for you to give generously. You really can't give something that you don't have. Also, the Bible also warns against giving so much that it hurts your family. That's something that we're warned against. And so if we're supposed to give generously, that means that we would have already had to have enough for our own family. And the Bible encourages us to leave an inheritance. How do we do that if we are living paycheck to paycheck? We can't. And so there's a lot of untangling, I believe, that happens, especially when somebody jumps into high ticket. Not everybody has this, but it's uncomfortably common.
And a lot of the times I pay that money for X. It's like, well, no, that doesn't always translate, because you're putting your issues onto your audience. Your audience may not have the same issues that you have around money. They may actually need exactly what you have. And with the parable of the talents, are you burying your talents? Are you just digging a hole, putting it in the ground and saying, well, I'm just going to do courses because I don't feel like I can charge high ticket for coaching? No, you're burying a talent. What if you have the talent to pull that out of that person that a course or something is not going to do? Like, getting in front of your client is what they need in order to propel them to the next level, but you're burying that talent because, like, well, yeah, high ticket coaching is not for me because X, whatever,
Right.
blase. And you're burying that talent. And not only is it not going to grow, you're not going to grow, the client's not going to grow, but when you are able to generate that revenue, what are you investing in? Right? You're tithing to your church. You're giving alms to the poor. You are a wealth generator and a wealth giver at that point. And you are being the light in someone else's life, not only through the coaching, but through the wealth transfer as well. So that's, everybody knows the parable of the talent. So do not bury your talent. You need to bring it out into the light. You need to sell your coaching. And I'm not saying you need to sell at high ticket, but eventually you will need to sell at a high ticket.
And to your point, that doesn't mean that every single offer in your product suite has to be, you can diversify your product suite. Absolutely. Especially as your business grows and your audience grows, you do not have space to have 50 one-on-one coaching clients. Even if they are all paying you $10,000 a piece, you don't have the space nor the time. So there is a time and place to diversify your product suite, have something that is maybe a middle ticket, low ticket, but especially when you're starting, when you haven't made a dime yet and you don't have a large audience, I don't see any other way other than to sell high ticket. Now, if you have a large audience, if you were X celebrity or whatever, X influencer, and you're coming into the coaching space already having wide influence and large audience, then sure, maybe you have more options. But 9 times out of 10, coaches are coming into the online space with a small audience. And even if here's another little feelings-free exercise to do that doesn't involve emotion. Take your Instagram followers at your current pricing, your low ticket pricing, assuming you have low ticket pricing. If every single one of your Instagram followers bought from you, which is not going to happen, not everybody's going to buy from you. Hypothetically, if they did, how much money would you make? And then realize, is that reoccurring? Or do you have to go find 600 new people next month? If you have an audience of 200 followers and you have $100 offer, I don't know what 200 times 100 is. I have to do math real quick. I think it's 20,000. 200 times, I don't know. Yeah. Someone is listening to this thing. I cannot believe you can't do that math in your head. I don't do math in my head. I'm pretty sure it's, okay, we'll do the math real quick so I can accurately speak.
You are correct.
20,000.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you have an audience of 200. Your offer is $100. Even if everybody bought from you in a 30-day time period, you made a 20 grand. Great. That's amazing. Now you have no one else to sell to. And $20,000 is great for 1 month, but over the course of a year, even half of the year is, cool. You're getting all of it at once and then leaving yourself no space to grow. So that's another just like really objective exercise that we can do that takes our feelings out of it. I'm not saying that feelings are bad. God gave us feelings for a reason. Let's acknowledge them. Let's be more dedicated to our assignment than we are to our feelings. And you're called.
Amen to that.
Yes. Acknowledge your feelings. But like, we live in a culture that is just married to our feelings. I don't feel like them today. Oh, then don't, girlfriend. You deserve a day off. I'm not saying you don't deserve a day off, but to go back to the corporate explanation, if you probably get like a couple personal days a year, and if you used them up and you're like, I just don't feel like coming into work today, your boss is going to say, okay, well, don't come in tomorrow and start looking for another job with love. It's an expectation. It's in your job description. We have to start. Let's not treat our jobs like our corporate jobs from the perception of like working 9 to 5 or working for an hourly perspective, but let's put as much expectation of showing up in our businesses as we would on a corporate job.
That's it. And like showing up for a podcast interview, showing up for an Instagram live, showing up for Instagram stories every day. We can think of those as like meeting with our corporate teams or having board meetings, just things that we would do in corporate. It's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're saying, and I don't feel in charge high ticket. Okay, dig into that. Find out where that's coming from. Do you need to pivot a niche to solve a bigger, more painful problem? Perhaps. And if that's the case, this could be a painful thing for you to hear. What's more painful, not making money or changing your niche? In this economy, my guess is probably not making money. Because gas is through the roof. So is groceries. So that being said, let's not be so married to our niche that we throw common sense out the window. Let's not throw common sense out the window either. Let's do the math. God calls us to be profitable. Proverbs 31:18. If you're in business, you are called to be profitable. It's not wise nor a good use of resources that God's given you to be giving your services away for free or next to nothing. So I'm not saying you need to start charging $10,000 today, although based upon what you're solving for somebody, maybe that would be appropriate. But let's start inching towards high ticket and realizing that you can diversify your product suite as you go and as you grow. But when you're starting out, it's high ticket.
Yeah, for sure. And that the numbers just play out. At least it's not that we can't have lower ticket items to sell. That's why we have the ascension model where people buy into the lower ticket and then they start investing with you over time. There's people that teach that model. We talked about the launching model on our last podcast or our last episode, but there's so many different models that you can follow and use in your business. But what Camie's saying today is for those of us who are coaches, we need to start at high ticket. One, we have to assess the value that we are bringing to our clients, especially if we're doing one-on-one. And if you're including Voxer, unlimited email access, which is the norm for one-on-one coaching, how much is that worth? And if you're not charging it, like what were you charging? $24? Is that what you're?
LOL. When I charged $24 for 6 weeks of coaching, the math is astronomical on that.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Well, I wanted to talk about resentment when we are undercharging. So how are we showing up for our clients if we get to the point, one, we're burnt out, our schedules are totally full, and we're like, hey, my whole calendar is filled with 50 one-on-one calls every week, because we're doing the math. Yeah. Even if it's for only 6 weeks, what does that do to us as a person? Gosh, I'm never doing that again, because we don't like the way that it turned out. We don't like the way that we feel. We don't like the way that it made us not have time for our families. We don't like the way that it totally did not contribute to the bottom line. Because let's be honest, 24 times 50 people, what is that, $480? What did that really do for you, for your business? Are you even able to pay for your subscriptions that you have? Right? If you have an email list, yes, Instagram's free, but if you have any apps or any technology you're using in your business, you have to pay for those. Yeah. And if you are a coach, usually you have a coach. You have a business coach. Like, are you paying for your bills as a business owner, not to mention the bills that you have, like your household bills? How are we doing all of that with that low ticket pricing? And we're talking specifically for one-on-one coaching here. Yes, can you charge $24 if you're having a Black Friday launch? Can you charge $24 for an online course? For sure you can, but they're not getting the face-to-face. They're not getting the one-on-one interaction. They're not getting that level of transformation watching a 30-minute video with a worksheet. Just be real. And people can totally start out there. And you're buying, that's how I bought anyway. I'm like, let me try this one person's online course. And then eventually we bite bigger. You buy the small thing, we bite bigger. I know for me, when I came from corporate into the coaching world, I kind of just jumped all in. There's different type of buying personas. I'm going to go big or go home. If I'm going to go big and this person is saying that they have everything that I want, I will buy that. That's how I got into my first high ticket coaching program. I'm like, they have everything that I want. They have the transformation that I want, and how I want to transform my business. I'm like, where can I sign? I literally I was at a conference. I went to the back of the room and I pointed at the screen and I said, I want that. I want that. How can I get into that? Yeah. Because they were selling a different program at the conference. And for the people who had already bought into their initial program, you could upgrade into that higher level offer. And I said, no, I don't want this. I want that. So however I need to get to that, I'm going to buy into that. And because I had already done, so this is a health coaching conference, because I had already done some health coaching, they said, okay, we're just going to bypass you. And they took my prerequisites from a different program, and I was able to apply those prerequisites and buy into the bigger program. But that's just the way that I buy. I get it. Some people start differently. We all start on different levels. But when you are building your own business, we have to do the math. How much is it costing? What is it costing us operationally? Are we even covering the basics in our own business? And if it's, like you said, it's a numbers game, facts, not feelings. Yes, do we feel like in charge a high ticket? Maybe not right now, but that's when we do the mindset work. That's when we get the additional coaching that we need in order to, we're talking about facts, not feelings, but feel we can charge a higher ticket. And honestly, all it takes is a reframe. Because stuff that we are good at, our natural gifting, our natural genius, is not something that we would pay for because we're good at it. I don't need to pay anybody to do the things I'm naturally good at. But that's the one thing that everybody will come to you for. That is your micro niche, that thing that you think is totally non-valuable because it's like second nature to you. But everybody sees that in you, and that's what they want. How can when we talked about private selling on the previous podcast, how do I get there? But for you, it's second nature because that's the process that you've built. It's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And you naturally do it. But people will see what you're doing and like, they're like, I want that. How can I get that? And so like this is for you if you're struggling with niching down and charging higher ticket. What are you really good at? And this is where the market research will come in. Ask people, what am I good at? What do you come to me for? You'll start to see a pattern and be able to choose your micro niche, and then people will pay really good money for. And it really, I was talking to someone and they're like, oh, that thing that you do, oh gosh, like that, I want that. And I was like, well, that's not for sale. For the longest time in the beginning of my business, the business side of, I started off as a health coach. All of the business stuff that I was doing, I was just hopping on these random calls with my health coaching friends, giving them business advice because I had invested in business coaching. And I was like, oh, I just do XXXX. And I was at, my husband was like, we're on these coaching calls. You got paid. I said, but that's not my niche. I'm not a business coach. I'm a health coach. These are my health coaching friends. I'm just talking to them and helping them. But it's like, but they're growing their businesses because of you, what you told them. I was, yeah, but they're just my friends. I'm just helping them out. And that's how I ended up switching from health into business, because I didn't realize what I was giving was valuable. I was essentially hiding my talent and not monetizing that because it's just second nature for me. This is just how I think. And today, here we are helping people with business burnout because of the business acumen that I've gained over the years, plus the health acumen that I've gained over the years. And I kind of can just combine them into a micro niche for business burnout coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. Every part of our journey, nothing's wasted.
Nothing's wasted. Yeah, I created this micro course called How to Find Your Expert Edge. And it really takes people through mapping out their time, talent, treasure, and training. It takes you through all of that to find your genius so that you don't feel imposter out here. Because a lot of times when we're trying to charge high ticket and we're unable to, there's something in us that's still dealing with that imposter syndrome. And it's going to be another facts versus feelings exercise. The facts are you've helped people with this, and it's all going to be laid out on paper and you're going to see it. And like, how much would people pay to get that level of transformation that you've already taken yourself through? And then the numbers will be able to match up and it will be therefore easier for you. Yes, there's the mindset work, but a lot of times the logic can help kickstart the mindset piece. Because like, oh, this is what I'm seeing on paper. Facts don't lie. Our hearts may lie to us, but the facts don't lie. If this is what's showing up, then for sure this can help with the reframe that we need in order to start charging that high ticket price that we need to in order to grow our coaching businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to all of it.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you want to leave our audience with today in regards to undercharging and overworking?
Yeah, I would say the last thing I would say is almost every single coach in the space has done it. If you can avoid it, amazing. Most of us don't. Most of us make this mistake before we learn, and we learn the hard way at first. So no shame if you are currently undercharging and overworking. Realize there's a better way, that making money is not evil. Rich people are not bad. There are bad rich people, yes. But how much wildly different would the world be if believers were leading and paving the path from a financial standpoint? If you looked at the most wealthy people in the world and you saw people undoubtedly devoted to Christ, we live in a different world. And so I would challenge people to understand, if you feel that you can't charge high ticket, dig into that, bring that into your prayer time, ask the Lord to reveal to you, Lord, what is the block holding me back? I mentioned imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, in my opinion, is spiritual warfare, because you're getting closer to what it is that God's calling you to do. And that's such a threat to the enemy, because then you'll be like light on the hill. And that would draw the attention and draw the eyes of people. And if you're representing Christ, then you being a light on the hill is essentially pointing people to Jesus. And that's a massive threat to the enemy. If we can expect that coming, I always tell my clients, we have a security system on our house to protect our house. We've never had a break-in before, but if we are not waiting until a break-in happens, we have locks on our doors. Proactive because we anticipate that, hey, someday, we don't want it to happen, someday somebody may get in their head, they want to break into this house. If we approached our heart that way, our mindset, our belief system with the enemy that way, and you started putting up guards, which is the fruit of the Spirit, or excuse me, the armor of God, and as a result, the fruit of the Spirit, started getting in the Word daily, God would start to reveal to you everything that you're believing slowly so as to not overwhelm you, but everything that you're believing that is not actually lining up with the Word of God. The Bible is the only book that when you read it, it reads you back. So that has to do with imposter syndrome. That has to do with feeling like I can't charge high ticket. Scripture actually supports multiple ways of making a profit in your business, becoming debt-free, building wealth, giving generously, leaving an inheritance. All of those are biblical principles, and we're not accomplishing them if we're stuck in a poverty mentality. So that would be my bow on the gift, I suppose, if I were to tie it all up.
I love that. I love that. And for those who are listening to this episode first, where can they find you online, and what are some of the things they can expect when they follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a podcast called the Bibles, Babies, and Business Podcast. I do 2 episodes a week. Monday episodes are usually very practical business strategy. My expertise is in sales, specifically, of course, high ticket sales, selling privately. And then our Thursday episode is called a Bible study breakdown, where we move through the Bible in chronological order. We pull a passage from Scripture. We glean the principles of that Scripture and practically understand how can we apply this to our everyday life in the area of our faith, our motherhood, our marriage, and our business. So that's what you can expect from the podcast. I do have an Instagram. It's at Camie.Wilke. I show up there Monday through Friday. Weekends are my social media free times. I do a lot of mini trainings on my stories, very educationally based content. So if that's you, and if you're here for tough love, because that's one thing is I deliver with grace and deliver with love, but I'm not here to tiptoe around your feelings and tell you, I'm not here to flatter you and tell you what sounds really good. The Bible also really warns against, I think it said, like, I'm going to butcher it, but something to the effect of a helpful critique is better than flattery from a friend. And I don't want to flatter people and just tell them what they need to hear, because I know that you need to make money. I know that you need to get clients. I know that you have kids to feed and bills to pay. And me telling you that I help moms be better moms is a niche that is working for you is not helping you. So I will tell you how it is with love always, and as a means to sharpen you, because iron sharpens iron, but that doesn't happen without friction.
Oh, so if you're familiar with the burnout archetypes, Camie is a powerhouse. So you will get the truth spoken in love, but that's the nature of a powerhouse. They bring it, they hit you, but they will lovingly bring you into the fold once they're done.
Kylie, thank you so much for letting me come on your show, for the relationship that we built over the last couple of weeks, the wisdom that you've poured into me, learning more about my personality type, learning that I had no idea I was a powerhouse type. I knew I was very persistent. I knew that give up is not words that I understand in my language, but thank you for putting a name to it.
You're very welcome. I love personality types, and I love helping people understand their personality types so they can build their businesses without burnout. So thank you again for coming to the podcast today, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.